you manage church politics?
That's a good one. I'm not managing it well, I tell you. I had a conversation recently with other pastors' wives, and they were like, we show up at church, and that's when we find out that we bought a new building or something else is going on.
Wow.
And we got to look cool, like we always knew. I'm going to tell you this. I got so passionate once about something that was related to my husband that I fussed with the chair of the deacon board. And I don't fuss. I'm not a fusser. I'm not a loud person. I'm not all that. So can you see me fussing with the chair of the deacon board?
Welcome back to the Jacqueline Renee Show. I am your host, Jacqueline Renee. I am so excited on today. We have a fine First Lady on my show today by the name of First Lady Karla Debnam. I am excited that she is here, and we're going to be talking today about secrets behind ministry. So, Lady Karla, thank you so much for being on the Jacqueline Renee Show.
Thanks for having me. I have been looking forward to this, and I'm so grateful to be here.
Amen. So are you ready to start talking about secrets behind ministry?
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see in a minute.
Okay. So a lot of people don't understand the secrets behind ministry. Mm-hmm. There are some things that people don't see behind the scene. And we want to kind of talk about some of these things so others can really understand, especially other pastors' wives that are out there. Yeah. There may be some secrets that you may be going through and you don't know how to bring it out. You don't know who to talk to or where to go, to talk about these things, these secrets, these challenges, these embarrassing things that you as a pastor's wife may go through. So me and Lady Karla, we're going to be the person that you can listen to get some answers from. And so Lady Karla, let's go ahead and get into this conversation. So Lady Karla, the unspoken pressures and sacrifices of ministry and leadership. Can we talk about some of those sacrifices, those pressures in leadership that you experience in your church?
So some of the sacrifices, I would say the biggest sacrifice is of time. Time together, time to be a couple. We spend a lot of time with the family and make sure the children, got time, or we have people at church help us. So, navigate, whether it's dropping off or pick up from school or sporting events or any of those kinds of things. But sometimes it's the personal time as a couple that really takes a hit, especially in the beginning of ministry, because we're both doing it all. So if your husband's teaching, you might be teaching several classes because there's nobody else there to do it. So you're on the choir, you're on the praise team. If you're a musician, you're playing, and you're teaching, and you have your children. So I would say that's
big sacrifice.
That's a big sacrifice that people don't see, because once we show up, right on Sunday or at Bible study, it looks seamless.
Simple, yeah.
Seamless. So I would say time is a big sacrifice.
Yes, I agree with you on that. When we first started, my husband and I, that was truly a sacrifice, because some Sundays I want to go to the beach.
Yes, or brunch, right?
Brunch, absolutely. Yeah. So that truly was a big sacrifice. And I don't sing, but my husband had me to do praise and worship. And, I had to do the praise and worship. I had to do the Sunday school for the kids. I had to be the usher. I had to do all these things. And so I would say, Lady Karla, that is a big sacrifice, especially when it's just you and your husband, until the people come.
Yes, until the people come.
You got to do it. Yeah. And especially if you are a young pastor's wife, You know, your husband just started ministry. Those are some things to consider.
Definitely.
That there's going to be some form of sacrifice for ministry. So another question I have, how do you manage church politics?
That's a good one. I'm not managing it well, I tell you. One way to manage it is, it's I would think from my old job, the need to know. So that's a statement. Everybody doesn't have the need to know. So you have to even determine for yourself, do I really need to know this? I had a conversation recently with other pastors' wives, and they were like, we show up at church and that's when we find out that we bought a new building or something else is going on.
Wow.
And we got to look cool like we always knew.
Wow.
And so so some of that is communication, of course, at home, but a lot of times our husbands are shielding us from all of the drama. So that's why sometimes we show up, it's already done, because the back and forth or the inside information may make us feel disconnected from the church members, because they're usually the ones, you know, causing confusion and chaos at times. And so sometimes that's what I would say. You need to know. If you don't need to know, even though you want to know, it's just better sometimes for your own peace of mind if you don't get into it. Periodically, I would tell you this. I got so passionate once about something that was related to my husband that I fussed with the chair of the deacon board. And I don't fuss. I'm not a fusser. I'm not a loud person. I'm not all that. So can you see me fussing with the chair of the deacon board? So I would say don't cross that line. That didn't go well. But that's why the need to know works. Okay. If you don't need to know, if people don't tell you, you're not in the loop, be okay with that, which again I said I struggle with. Okay, so let me just ask you this. Okay, you're good because no need to know. My husband bought a building and I don't need to know. I think I need to know. So some of this, is how is it that you're going to buy a church building? Yeah. And I don't know. Okay, we're going to have to talk about that, secrets in ministry. That's it partly. And this is what the challenge was for her. She was like, I'm okay with it, but at least let me know what I'm walking into. Exactly. I don't need to know the negotiations and those kinds of things. And that was hard for her to process. And the rest of us could understand, because we've all been in this situation where things come up and we have to act cool like we already knew. And we found out when everybody else found out. Wow. And that's difficult. And I would say that's one of the challenges of being in ministry is putting on that face. And I know we say we don't be phony, but it's not being phony. It's just maintaining your own sanity and cool, because you do get to discuss it later. Like, how am I just finding this out? So behind closed doors, you would talk about it, but not at the meeting. Right. I've done that. I've asked questions at the meeting. Right, but you have some pastors' wives, that's not going to, fly with them, though. It's not. It's not going to fly. That's why I'm saying you're good, because, you're quiet, meek, and different things like that. But then you have the rowdy pastors' wives. Some of my friends. I know, the ones that's not going to put up with that. They're not. Hey, we're in this together. I'm doing more of the stuff, than you are. You just preaching every Sunday morning and Bible stuff. The ministry going. Right. So, so some pastors' wives, they're going to say, I should have known first before the congregation. So but do that behind closed doors. Absolutely. That's all I'm saying. You have a right to voice your challenges with the way even the church politics, how that plays out, because it impacts your family.
Yes. Yes.
In so many ways. And we take a lot of hits as
Yes.
the pastors' wives.
Yes.
We often, we just do a lot, and people don't know. They don't
Yes,
know.
absolutely. So another question I have for you, and thank you for being politically correct on that, because you know, as I said, I'm not that girl.
Yeah, I have some friends. It would have been out toe to toe right there at the unveiling. Of the project. It'd be like, okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I'm going to, wait till we get home, but it's going to be some secrets behind ministry.
Yeah.
I have a question. Dealing with burnout. Let's talk about that. Dealing with burnout, betrayal, and unrealistic expectations in ministry. Yeah. What are some of those secrets that you wish the congregation would understand as a pastor's wife? I can give you a story about how I burnt out, but I want to hear your story concerning those unrealistic things that, the expectations of what you expect in ministry.
Yeah, a lot of the unrealistic expectations do come, from our husbands wanting us to be, always involved or at the different services. And in the beginning, I went to everything, no matter what it was. And at this point, I pulled back some, but I wanted to be at everything. Now I'm at a stage where I don't need to be at everything. And that alone is a shift that you have to decide. And it can be uncomfortable, at home when they're like, oh, you're not getting up today? No, I'm not going. I'm not doing this. I had a friend. She always sat in the back pew of the church. She was cool. Yes. They just retired a couple months ago.
Oh
but
my God.
I'm like, so her husband jokingly, but kind of said, I have a wife, but I'm looking for a first lady. But she sat in the back. I think near the end of ministry, she sat up front.
She was burnt out.
She was burnt out going in.
Oh my God.
And so that's what some people don't realize. Just, maintaining a marriage, and then you put ministry on top of that. That the ministry is what can make the marriage take a hit.
Absolutely.
It's like I was cool with just me and you, but now it's me, you, and everybody else, and they come first. And nobody talks about that.
Yes.
Mainly the church.
Yes.
The church is always first. They don't say it, nobody says it. But the wives know. The wives know.
Absolutely.
It's the church, then you. It's never you, then the church. They may say, from my experience, I mean, at times it is me, but it's still going to be around church. So, and I don't know if that's something that we talk about.
We don't talk about it. So let's talk about it though, because you have a lot of pastors' wives that feel that way, that the church is first. I have a pastor's wife that I've talked to several times. Their husband is up praying all the time. Really don't spend time with her, and then he's off to church.
Yeah.
And doesn't get back home until later on. And so she's trying to figure out where does she fit in the equation,
Yeah, definitely.
Although ministry is important, but we have to understand as pastors' wives, as pastors, that ministry should never come before your marriage. Your marriage is first, and then ministry. It's so important because, like you said, it can hurt the marriage.
It can hurt the marriage. And I think what's shifted, I would say, over time, so especially in the beginning of ministry, it's the church, the church, the church. But what shifts is that I think some of the pastors realize that they had misplaced priorities.
My God.
And that they really
say that again.
Misplaced priorities because Some of them, their children have gone astray,
Yes.
not to
Yes.
return to ministry. Some of them have lost relationships or don't have the best marital relationship because of the sacrifice of the home
Yes.
for ministry. So I do see some people turning into a different place. So I feel like that happened with
Wow.
us.
Wow.
I'm just grateful. Like I always say, all my children, still believe in God, and we always have balance though, because I learned from the other people, as far as what happened with their children,
Yes.
or what happened with their marriage. So I learned from other people's mistakes. So that's what I would tell everybody: learn from other people's mistakes. You don't have to go down that road of misery in ministry.
Yes.
Because it can get miserable.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about some other secret things behind ministry. Let's talk about, you're saying that your children are in ministry still, or still believe in God. What about those children who are no longer in ministry, and there are some challenges that are actually going on at home? What do you do as a pastor's wife? How long you guys been pastoring?
It'll be 30 years next year, so 29.
30 years, yes. What, far as a pastor's wife, how did you actually help other pastors' wives to understand that, and we say it's going to get better, hold on, different things like that. But the reality of it is, my son is now selling drugs, but he is the pastor's son.
Right.
These are some secrets that we don't want the congregation to know.
That's true.
It's because we're ashamed,
Yeah.
and it makes us look like we are not good parents.
Yep.
So what do you say to pastors' wives when they're struggling with that? My daughter then got pregnant. We see that so many times. Took her from ministry. She no longer goes into the church because we don't want other people to see that she's pregnant.
Right.
This is secret stuff now.
Yeah, it's definitely some secrets.
And it's
out
been
here.
going on many years. Not
Many
just happening
years.
now,
No.
many years. But what they did many years ago is not what we're doing now.
Right. Yeah, and I would say when you have your children are going through difficulties, whether it's addictions or other kinds of struggles, and even becoming parents, as teenagers, these are things that require immediate attention. It's a cry for help.
Yes.
So within the home, and what we've done is send people to live with their aunt, or they, especially back in the day, everybody,
yes,
excuse me, went down south.
Yes.
Wherever south was, I don't know, or went to live with some relative in another place. But now, sometimes the children are challenging because they're looking for attention from their parents.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
This is in every family. This is not just in ministry families. What makes it complicated is that if their parents put the church first, this is where you have to shift your priorities.
Yes.
From church to family, which should be their priority before church anyway.
Yes.
But they don't know. They're like, it's still about church. It's not even about God at this point. The children know.
Yes,
So they're smart.
yes.
They know. And I had a young lady come to me. Her parents were having marital problems. And they were pastor and first lady. And the father, neither were trustworthy, I'll say. They lied to her.
Okay.
And she said, how am I supposed to stay in this house with people that's lying to me?
Wow.
I said, what grade are you in? She said 11th grade. I said, you got one more year and then you're out. I said, but you can tell them how you feel, which I think she was doing that, but for her was how to survive. She did her time, I'm gonna say her year.
Right.
Then she was in college.
Right.
By then
right.
they had divorced.
Oh, wow.
You know, at some point, which was the best thing because we all knew, like, why did you even get married? This is from us, the peanut gallery. We were like, but it was the best thing. Now everybody seems to be good. She's good.
Wow.
She found a husband. It wasn't like she had given up on life. I think she's still involved in ministry in some ways, but the fact that she had parents living a lie,
wow,
really impacted her.
And were
faith.
pastors.
And yes, and so like we all knew in the community, but we weren't her. We didn't live with it. She had to live with people lying to her.
Oh my God!
So this is what really drives a lot of the our children away. So it's tough. That's one of the secrets. Like, why they don't come to church? Like, my daughter doesn't come to church all the time. It's a drive. But she logs in, they all log in. So.
Wow, well, that's good. So my final question to you is, since you are a mental health counselor, there's a lot of things that are going on in the church. You know, you have people that are on medication for bipolar, and you have all of these different things that people are experiencing, from stress, anxiety, depression,
Yes.
suicide. I mean, it's so much, you know, different things that pastors as well as pastors' wives have to go through, and it's like a secret. I mean, can you talk to us about that? Why is it such a secret that someone is depressed? You know, we don't want nobody to know that Pastor so-and-so is depressed. We won't find out until he's committed suicide.
Right.
So talk to us about that.
A lot of times, again, it's boundaries. People feel like they represent God. And if I represent God, you know, I have to be on point all day, every day. I can't show that I have limitations, that I'm not doing well, that I am suffering. And so when we hide behind that as ministry leaders, it takes a toll, because if we're being fake at church, fake with ourselves, fake in our family, and nobody knows the struggle, or our families might know and are kind of covering for us or helping us through, we have to create a safe space. I'm a big believer in that, and that's hard to do, especially with pastors and pastors' wives and their families don't always feel, you know, safe. Especially within the congregation, because, you know, people are judgmental. And
that's good.
Then they also say, well, if you're struggling, maybe you shouldn't be in leadership. So some people hide behind those things, and that's why they don't come forward for help, because they want to maintain their ministry. They love God, they want to serve God, and they don't realize they can serve God and take their medication and get therapy and go on spiritual retreats or places where they can be restored so that they can be the people God called them to be. And you want to get the help sooner than later, because you don't want to get to the point where you need hospitalization, where you need, you know, extreme kinds of therapy. You know, they still do shock therapy for people that are depressed. If they can't, you know, get themselves out of it, or medicine doesn't work. So we don't want to get severe, because the problem with severe mental illness is it leads to death. So whether that's death by suicide, or you do harmful things like addictions, or you get in some trouble. If you're a gambler, I know people love to gamble, but gambling is the #1 cause of suicide of all addictions.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Because you lose it all.
Oh my God.
You lose your family, you lose it all. And don't know how to get it back.
Wow.
And, you know, the despair becomes a lot. So we want to make the church a safe space for pastors. Because we say we want to have the church a safe space for members and visitors. But we also need a safe space. So that's, I'm big about finding your people.
Yes.
So it could be a small group. It could be a group like yours that has a place for the leading ladies to come together and share.
Yes.
And we hope that on the other side of this, that the men are getting together.
Yes.
We're having an event at church, and I asked my husband, "What are you men talking about?" He said, "That's for us to know," you know. But I'm glad they're talking.
Yes.
And they love it.
Yes.
I mean, he said, once you get them talking, you can't get them to stop.
Yes.
But that's what we need more of, places where men talk, where the women talk, and where we talk together as couples.
Wonderful. So if you could just, you know, speak to the camera. There may be a pastor's wife. It may even be a pastor that may be watching right now. And they heard what you said. They heard what I said. But they still are stuck in some form of depression. Can you, as a counselor, speak to them and let them know there's hope?
Sure, there is hope. Our first hope is in God. You know, go to what you know. You know you have a faith, you know you have a strength in your faith, and you can go to your faith. David had to encourage himself, right? Because he was in a tough spot, and you in a tough spot will have to encourage yourself, but he also had a spiritual person he could go to. He didn't just try it on his own. He had a mentor. He had somebody that spoke into his life that he could trust to get guidance. So that's what I would suggest. Get somebody you trust, a mentor that would lead you to a safe space where if you need therapy, medication, or just a support group, just other ministers' wives or pastors where you can share what's going on. There's no need to suffer in silence. This is not the time for that. And we have too much ministry work to do. And we need to be upfront with our struggles so that the members can get the help that they need that are beyond the sanctuary. But they still need a safe space. And if they see you getting help, then they will get help too.
Well, thank you, Lady Karla, so much for being on the Jacqueline Renee Show. This has been amazing, and we just pray that, you know, someone heard us on today concerning mental challenges.